Welcome to Sessions with Dolly. So in the last session, we discussed the statement of the problem and the justification of the study. So in this session, we'll be discussing research questions. So let's get on it. So what exactly is a research question? So a lot of people have asked this question so many times, but in simple terms, a research question is a question. So it's not a statement or an idea, but it's a question that clearly articulates and pinpoints the specific issue that the research or study aims to answer. So sometimes some researchers would have a main research question. So this will be an overarching question that the research is centered on. And from there on, they could have sub-questions. So those are questions that help answer the main research questions. So they just help break down the main research question in smaller parts so that the topic can be fully understood. So this happens a lot in academia where, people are doing like their master's research, their PhD. So sometimes you can see through those research proposals that they would have to have their research questions into some sub questions. So why exactly is a research question important? So it is important because it will determine the study or research design. So that is it sets the direction that the research will take. So it will define how you're going to be collecting your data, like what kind of data you're going to be collecting, the type of data. So as you go on, we're going to be looking at the different types of data that is there, different methods used to collect data. So now let's discuss some of the characteristics of a good research question. So a good research question is clear, so it must be understood with no ambiguity. Also, it has to be feasible, so it has to be narrow enough to be answered within like the given time frame and the budget. So obviously when you're starting, you could have like that time frame. If you're doing, especially with longitudinal studies, it's okay, you're following this for 10 years or for like 20 years, other than just saying you're just following this population for forever. I think that's not feasible. And then it has to be specific, so you have to clearly define what your topic is, what your population is, and other variables that may be involved. So this gives an idea to somebody who's looking at your research question that, okay, you'll be focusing on this type of population. Maybe you're only focusing on this particular variables, and they have to understand what exactly what's your topic surrounding. And then it has to be researchable. It has to be answered through evidence. You have to collect your data, maybe perform some few experiments, test your hypothesis, analyze the data. And lastly, it has to be complex. So it shouldn't just be a simple yes or no answer to answer your question. It has to require further explanation or analysis. So now let's go and talk about some of the types of research questions. So we have qualitative questions and quantitative questions. So qualitative questions provide a deeper understanding of the context and aims to explain why things are the way that they are. So it delves like deeper into you understanding your whole question overall. So it answers questions like, okay, why, how did this happen, So an example could be, how has the absence of a tuck shop affected your studies? So it's diving deeper into this lack of tuck shop and the deeper effects of it, the lack thereof of a tuck shop, and how maybe it has affected the students' performance. So you'll find out with qualitative questions, it's more about understanding every individual's response experience also. So with quantitative questions, you're just measuring and dealing with numerical data. So this is data that is countable. So it answers questions such as what, how much, how many. So you're going to be quantifying those. So an example could be, how many times do you have to go out of school premises to buy essentials? Then the respondent would then be like, I've only gone like once, twice, 3 times. So from that, then you don't really go deeper. So when you're asking why, then that would be a qualitative question, because the respondent would be responding deeper into, okay, why did you have to go so many times outside? But if it's just qualitative, you'll just have to quantify the data, take it as, okay, many students have gone once or twice, and that you can see if it's a big problem than you had anticipated and how bigger the problem is. So now let's look at some of the examples of good versus bad research questions. So an example could be a question like, what is climate change? So a question like this is not a very good research question because it is very broad. It doesn't include the time frame. It doesn't also include the population that the study is focusing on. So it could go on like, at what climate change, where there are a lot of explanations of what climate change could be. So then somebody researching a question like this might not even have an ending as to where their study could end. So it's not a very good research question. So let's just see how a question like this can be improved. So we have an example here which reads, how has climate change affected agriculture in sub-Saharan Africa over the past 20 years? So I think that this is a very good research question because it clearly defines the topic at hand. It is climate change, but you want to see how it's affecting the agriculture where in the sub-Saharan Africa, when that's the time frame within over the past 20 years. So let's look at another example. So a question like, is exercise good for your health? Remember, we said that a research question should be complex, so it shouldn't just be a yes, be answered with a yes or a no. So a question like this, we all know that exercise is good for your health, so that's where the study would end. So this one is also not a very good research question because it's too simple. So let's see how this type of question can also be improved. So it reads, how does moderate daily exercise impact mental health in adults aged 40 or 60? So with this improved version, you want to see the effects of not just all health in general, but the exercise and how it's impacting mental health. To whom? To those adults aged 42 to 60. So in Tabu's case, let's see an example of a very bad question that he could choose. So it's a question like, is there a need for a tuck shop? It also is not a very good question because it's too simple. It's too simple. Similar to the exercise one, it can be answered with either a yes or no. Is there a need here? Okay, yes. But you want to dig deeper, because remember, he is trying to convince the principal that I am, like, your school needs my services, your school needs the tuck shop. So let's see how he can improve his research question. So here's an example of what a type of research question that he can choose. So it reads, to what extent do students and staff at CDB High School perceive a need for a tuck shop? So here is already included the population, and remember, you have to give a sense of, okay, who are you going to be researching? So including both students and staff, I think it's taking into account that the school has students, but it also has other staff members, like your teachers, like your gardeners, maybe security there at school. They also maybe need a tuck shop. So this is examples of some of bad research questions and how they can be improved. So in the next episode, we'll be discussing the source of data. So we're still doing our 4-part series, so source of data will be part 3. So stay tuned on that, and I hope that so far this is helping you, whether you are deciding to write a research proposal or you're just starting on your journey of research. I hope that this small informational videos are helping you starting to like think and really start on your journey. So see you in the next session.